Welcome to the Triple Threat Podcast. My name is William and Ishan, and today we are live on YouTube. Look at that. We are moving up in the world. So this is going to be how we're going to be doing most of our content nowadays because, well, it's easier for us and you guys are going to get more content. So summer break has started, and we're going to try and get you an episode every day. Stay tuned around 12 or 1 o'clock every day. We will be uploading, and we'll let you know. I'll post it if we're scheduled for a show today. But today we've got a lot to talk about. NBA first round's wrapping up. We have the final game tomorrow night, and we also have the Logan Paul fight tomorrow night, and a couple of NFL headlines to cover on the way. But let's get straight into this. We're not going to take too much of your time today. Let's get into the first round of the playoffs, and I know you're excited to talk about this one. It's the Atlanta Hawks.
So 4-1 series win versus versus New York. Well, we'll take Brooklyn in the conference finals, but I think this is a really good series for us. It boosted our morale, and it did a lot for the Hawks. First of all, we got to talk about Trae Young. He really embraced that villain role, and when you have a player with his play style, a lot of people kind of viewed him as soft, couldn't take the heat, a little bit too emotionally almost insecure, but he showed everyone that he's willing to embrace that villain role and back it up with his elite play. The one moment that stood out to me was Game 5. We were up, I'd say, 15, and a minute left on the clock. There is all the Knicks fans, including Spike Lee, stand up to congratulate the Knicks on a great season. Trae Young pulls up from 30 feet, hits a bomb, and then bows as the Knicks fans are applauding their own team. So that's what it shows. And then he also got the rest of the team riled up. Bogdanovich had a great series, really just shooting well, creating his own shot. And then Clint Capella, who on the defensive end looked like a top 2 rim protector in the league. And it just really, really showed how he completely neutralized Julius Randle's impact. They'd have DeAndre Hunter force him right and funnel Randle right into Capella, where Capella just handled Randle so beautifully. And I thought that it was just a great series. It showed the cohesive nature of the team. It showed McMillan's schemes actually working. And I think at this point, we just got to re-sign McMillan, because he's proven that he can win basketball games with this roster, and he can unlock the full potential of this roster.
And we're back. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties we've had there. First time on the stream, I tried to optimize it and get you some better content, but I messed it up. So we're back. No worries about the delay. This is the first stream. It's how it goes. It's how it goes. So let's hop right back into what you're talking about with the Atlanta Hawks. So overall, what did you make of Spike Lee's performance on the bench? Do you think it really helped Trae Young?
Yeah, it added some fuel to the fire. You know what I mean? Like, Trae, I think with guys like Steph Curry and Trae Young, the shooters, the guys that are not physical, there's this notion that they're just like a bunch of scrawny wimps who are kind of emotional. They're babies. They can't handle that kind of pressure. And Trae completely flipped that narrative. And Trae embracing that villain role, as iconic as Spike Lee is for the Knicks and as a filmmaker, him taking that extra pressure, him embracing that role like how Kobe Bryant did, like how MJ did, was something that I really wasn't expecting. And then I think it just really crossed the line when these Knicks fans were spitting on him, because there's a difference between trash talking and being flat out unacceptable. And we saw this a lot with the racist remarks that John Morant's dad received, Trae Young getting spat on, Kyrie Irving with the water bottle incident. There's one more that I'm completely blanking. Oh, Westbrook when he got injured with the popcorn. So things like that is just unacceptable. And I think Trae took all of it like a man, and he backed all of his trash talk up. He backed all this retaliation with his elite play. And the one thing that really stood out to me was final minute of Game 5, Hawks up 15. It was just basically, okay, just dribble it out. The Knicks fans start standing up to applaud the players on a great season. Trae Young hits a 30-foot dagger and bows. And Trae Young's dad said it best, there's going to be a new rivalry and there's going to be a new villain in New York for the next 10 to 15 years. And as long as Trae stays in Atlanta, this New York-Atlanta rivalry is going to be really fun to watch as a Hawks or a Knicks fan.
Well, the Trae Young's the storyline you're going to hear all about everywhere on ESPN, on all your sports networks. That's what you're going to hear about is Trae Young versus the Knicks. But what I want to hear about more is, what has Nate McMillan done for this team? What has he done from Lloyd Pierce that's really enhanced this team and gone on, what are they like 30-something and 10 since he took over?
So since Nate McMillan got hired, we've been 31-12. And to put that into perspective, Philadelphia in that same time frame has been 31-12. So the best team in the East matched our record for the last 45 games, which is very impressive. And I think what Nate McMillan did was he has a very team defense-oriented approach, and he let the offense run through Trae, the pick and roll, and the shooters, but he focused on his attention on defense and, more importantly, Clint Capella. So if you watch these games and if you look at the stats, what Atlanta did to neutralize Julius Randle's impact was force him right, because Julius Randle's a lefty, have DeAndre Hunter, a good perimeter defender, force him right, and funnel him right into Clint Capella, who played like a top 2 to 3 rim protector in the league. And then Clint Capella can alter a shot, can get a block, or Randle, who's a good passer, can fade it out to the perimeter to maybe a guy like Reggie Bullock, and this whole process starts all over again. So this whole way and process of neutralizing the team's best player and giving more attempts to the role players, which we saw a lot as New York's bench thrived more than their starting lineup, really helped Atlanta win games, and it helped us a lot defensively because we held the Knicks to 99 points a game. And the Knicks aren't really a great offense or a defensive team, but 99 points per game in the playoffs, regardless of how good you are offensively, is just not going to cut it.
And they also held the Knicks to less than 40% shooting from the field.
Oh, yeah. They forced a lot of bad shots, forced a lot of contested shots, and especially in the close games, the Knicks started to get desperate. They started to chuck up really inefficient shots because Atlanta would not let them take the obvious great shots. So Atlanta Nate McMillan, kudos to you. And I think our number one priority should make sure that we extend Nate McMillan's contract because he can clearly win games with this roster, and his schemes work well for Trae Young, Clint Capella, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who had a great series as a shooter and shot creator, and even John Collins, who played very well defensively, but also was a great lob catcher and hit a lot of really, really clutch corner threes. There was game one, he hit the three that set up Trae Young's floater to win. So while Trae is getting the majority of the credit, rightfully so, I think you got to give credit to Nate McMillan and Clint Capella as well, along with guys like Bogey and Collins.
We're going to get into their matchup against the Sixers in a little bit, but let's talk about the Sixers matchup in particular. So they took on the Wizards in the first round, the 1v8 seed. Wizards have to do a lot to get into this matchup, and it was an interesting matchup overall. It was a 4-1, so not that entertaining in the end. But what did you make of this series as a whole?
The one thing that I took away from the series is that Philadelphia is vulnerable. As good of they put together an excellent roster. They have great coaching in Doc Rivers, but it really showed that Ben Simmons is vulnerable, and when Ben Simmons is vulnerable, the rest of the team is vulnerable. So first, actually, before we even get into that, Embiid getting injured again. It's a small meniscus tear, and he's day-to-day, but a meniscus tear is a meniscus tear, and it has the potential to spiral into something that is so much worse. So I think against Atlanta, he will miss like 1 to 2 games at least.
But even at that, like if you just look at the performance of what you have when you're on a torn meniscus, just look at Alvin Kamara last season. It's a pretty similar injury. He played 2 years. This would be the year before last on a torn meniscus, and he wasn't the player that he was before. And I guess the game's a lot different because Kamara is really predicated on his balance and his agility. But Embiid is you need knees to play basketball.
Yeah, for a guy that will be getting a lot of rebounds, for a guy that will be going up to block shots, for a guy that will be catching lobs. Things like that are all heavily dependent on your knees. And when you have a torn meniscus, one awkward landing can really result in something so much worse.
And if the Hawks can really just play with some pacing, I think pacing is really just want to take this series because Embiid's going to be limited mobility-wise. And if you can consistently take advantage of a man advantage, a 5-on-4 or 4-on-3, you're going to be able to take a series. So I think Nate McMillan is probably going to be able to recognize that. And he's going to be able to take this injury and really run with it as an opportunity for the Hawks to really take this series.
Yeah, and I think we'll see some lineups where if Clint Capella needs some rest, we'll slide in Collins at the center, and we can run Trae, Bogdanovic, Hunter, Gallo, Collins, and basically go for like an all-5 out. And that will give a lot of room for Trae to work with inside and a lot of room for Collins to work with inside. But then everyone out there will provide a quick, fast-paced, almost Houston Rockets-style offense that James Harden thrived in a couple years back.
And Capella's used to that system as well. The one player that would struggle in a system like that, the big center, the big rim protecting center, has played in that system and understands his role in that and is able to play in that system, which is, I think, vastly important. So let's talk a little bit about the Wizards themselves because you don't always hear about the losers of a series. What did Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook do in this series, and why weren't they able to make this series competitive?
Well, I think they just got outmatched. Beal played very well. He had 30 points. But one of the things that I saw was they were not really hitting their stride from beyond the arc. And Beal shot 21.9% from 3. So that was something that really kind of stood out to me, especially given that Westbrook is not a great shooter. And you're relying on Bradley Beal's efficient scoring as your number one source of offense. And then Westbrook played all right, but he was hurt. And I think it's time to let go of Scott Brooks. Scott Brooks, especially in late game situations where there are more than one of, does not have like set plays, almost similar to what Alvin Gentry was for the Pels last year, but definitely more on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that Scott Brooks needs to go. You need a coach that understands Westbrook and Beal's strengths. And to be honest with you, as much as I like Bradley Beal, as a Trae Young fan, seeing Trae Young snubbed, I looked into the stats, and I realized that Beal is overrated. He's a great scorer, but what else can he do outside of that, outside of scoring? And I think that really got exploited by Philly's great defense. Because even though Westbrook shot 33% from the field and only had 19
Classic.
points per game, he still contributed by averaging 12 assists and limiting the turnovers a little bit to only 4.2, which for playoff Westbrook is definitely better than normal. So, contributing in other facets of the game, I'd like to see Beal upgrade his playmaking. I'd like to see him at least be less of a negative on defense, because I don't think we'll ever see him as a positive on defense. And I think that the supporting cast, while they're young and they now have experience, they really need to step up next year. And, oh God, whatever happened to Danny Avdia?
Oh yeah. Well, it's impossible to win a series when your best player is shooting 21 from three, and at the team is shooting 27 compared to the other team's 37. So having a discrepancy of almost 10% in 3-point shooting percentage, it's just not going to go well for you as a team. And no matter how well you play, if another team's making more shots and scoring more points than you, it's going to be really hard to win. You're going to have to really dominate the paint and really dominate just defense. And as a Wizards team that doesn't have a phenomenal defense or even a good defense, it's going to be really hard to go against a team like the Sixers, who are shooting 38% from three and have Joel Embiid in the paint. So that is going to be really tough for them to win. And we saw that. It was a 4-1. So they're going to play the Hawks, and that'll be a really good series. It's going to be pretty evenly matched. With a healthy Embiid, I think it would have been pretty evenly matched. And with a hobbled Embiid, I'd actually give the Hawks an advantage. So
I would too. No bias. I think the Hawks definitely have. I think the Hawks can take this in 7.
I think it's going to be hard for the listeners to believe you with a giant Dominique Wilkins jersey behind your head. And a photo of Josh Smith.
Signed ball, the Josh Smith poster. Oh, you can't see this, but here's a Jeff Teague signed court piece from a Hawks basketball camp that I went to. Here's my Trae Young jersey.
Yeah, we promise he's not biased.
My Cam Reddish shirt, so not biased at all.
No, not biased. So let's move on.
Sources, trust me, bro.
Let's move on. We've got Milwaukee versus Miami, and this was how I thought this series would go. Maybe I thought it would have been a little bit more like a Washington-Philly series, where at least there was a game or like some interest in the series, but it was pretty smooth sailing for Milwaukee throughout this one. Just really coasted through this the whole time. Now, is this a Milwaukee is great, or Miami is not great, or a little bit of an in between, where Milwaukee's good and Miami's just not as good as we thought they were?
I think this is clearly a Milwaukee's great, and even though Miami played poorly, Milwaukee's acquisitions over the offseason made them a significantly better team, and the only notable move they made was Drew Holiday. So a lot of people thought Bledsoe, all NBA or all defensive player, solid on offense, 3 first-rounders for Drew Holiday. Pelicans robbed them, highway robbery. Drew is good, but not worth that much. But Drew's impact to the team defensively was clear. But the one signing that I really loved that goes so under the radar is P.J. Tucker. And P.J. Tucker, Giannis, who we all know is a great defender, and Lopez, who we all know is a great defender, did an excellent job keeping Jimmy and Bam out of the restricted area and out of the paint. So this one stat that I found was during the regular season, 41.8% of Bam and Jimmy's shot attempts were from the restricted area. During the playoffs, during that first round series, only 25.9% of their total shot attempts were from the restricted area. So they really pushed Bam and Jimmy, two excellent players, out of their comfort zone. They formed their own little wall to keep the paint basically a just Milwaukee's own territory. And Tyler Hero did not play well enough, and neither did Duncan Robinson for their 3-point shooting ability to supplement the lack of paint production. And then Milwaukee on offense shot 66% at the rim, very efficient, 52% from mid-range, and then their role players really stepped up. Guys like Bryn Forbes, Bobby Portis, and then obviously PJ Tucker really stepped up from three. And Forbes and Portis actually combined for 26 points per game on 47% from beyond the arc, just coming off the bench. So about 13 points each, 47% from three. Just a really great overall shooting job. And I think that if there's any team that can give Brooklyn a run for their money, it is this team, more than Philadelphia, more than Atlanta, and really more than any other team in the West. So keep an eye out for Milwaukee. They, in my opinion, could definitely come out of the East. And this is their best playoff team since, this is their best team since Giannis broke out.
I mean, they really dominated in the paint and in that mid-range area. They held Miami to almost like 43% from the mid-range and in the paint, which compared to themselves, they shot 58%. So I just think that is really a big testament to what they did in the paint. But my question is that their perimeter defense is solid. Like, don't get me wrong, it's Middleton and Drew did a pretty solid job. But against a team that has a plethora of three-point talents, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, I could probably list three other players that have shot 40% this season for them. They have the best.
Harden shot 40, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, Harden shot 40.
Harden, dude, the team is just too broken, man. They have the best three-point shooter in the league. They've got the best 7-foot shooter of all time.
Oh, 36, but it's
close
still
enough.
Harden.
Close enough.
It's still Harden.
They've got James Harden.
We all know what Harden can do.
And Kyrie. All of those guys can bury you with threes, and I just don't think there's enough defenders on this team that can stand up at them. So
yeah, because they'll do a good job of keeping Harden or Kyrie out of the paint for sure. But this means that PJ Tucker is going to have to go towards the perimeter. Lopez will basically be their sole rim protector. Giannis will have to fade out to the perimeter too. And as good as they are as perimeter defenders, Drew can neutralize Kyrie. I don't see anyone stopping Harden. And yeah, I can't see anyone stopping KD either. So I think that offensively, the Bucks have taken their own strides, and with Middleton as the established closer, that helps a lot. So I think they will win some games on their offense, because if Brooklyn is off, they are off. And I think there'll be one or two games like that. But if PJ Tucker steps up in the perimeter, if Giannis steps up on the perimeter like he did 2 years ago, before the whole Toronto meltdown, I think that this can go to 7. I still have Brooklyn winning regardless. I have Brooklyn winning it all, just to spoil it for you guys. But I think that if there is one team that can, it's Milwaukee. But it's really dependent on PJ Tucker and Giannis's perimeter defense.
now let's move on to our last match in the Eastern Conference. Well, that's versus Celtics. I think we've already talked about one of the teams extensively now. So let's move on to Boston. So they have a lot of turnover this offseason. They're going to have to find a new head coach, and that's probably going to be the biggest difference for them. So let's talk about the front office situation for the Boston going forward.
Yeah, Danny Ainge stepped down. And as good as Danny Ainge is as a GM, I always found him to be a bit overrated whether he was reluctant to make the big move or too greedy, like in that Indiana trade to get Miles Turner, who would have been perfect for the team. And I think that the one Brooklyn trade where they just completely like scammed Brooklyn out of their assets, if that didn't happen, I don't think we'd be viewing Danny Ainge in as high of a regard. And I don't even think we'd have him as a top 5 GM in the NBA. And a lot of people are like, well, he drafted Tatum, blah, blah, blah. He drafted Jaylen Brown, but he also drafted like Romeo Langford. He also drafted Gershon Yabusele with the 16th pick when he was a projected second rounder. So his draft history is really not that great.
I mean, we can pull up their draft history right now. So, Aaron Nesmith last season or last year, and Peyton Pritchard, Desmond Bain.
Well, they traded Bain.
Yeah, but that's technically who they picked. Langford,
Williams,
Grant Williams,
Langford,
Tremont Waiters, Robert Williams.
Yabusele, and then especially earlier on, like James Young,
Ante Zizic.
R.J. Hunter, not holding on to Terry Rozier. Marcus Smart he's great. A little bit of a reach at 6, but a lot of these, it's very average. It's not like he was getting a star every time. It's not like Golden State where they went Steph, then they got Festus Ezeli, but then they got Clay, and then they got Draymond later on. Or it's not Milwaukee where a lot of their talent is homegrown. So I think that Danny Ainge, he tried to make the big splash with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. It didn't work out. And so he's been pretty passive and reluctant ever since. And for a team with this much top-end talent and a team that had so much depth that's now lost, you have to start making splashier moves to have the production match the talent. And I think after the whole Gordon Hayward catastrophe, after Kyrie, he wasn't going to do that. So I think that Brad Stevens, who I think is an excellent leader and I think will be better suited as a GM than a head coach, will do a better job of that. Now it's finding the right head coach. And Jason Kidd for Portland, for Boston, and now Orlando, because Steve Clifford just got fired like an hour ago, seems like the hot commodity.
Yeah, Jason Kidd, interesting. He's had a mixed coaching career so far.
Yeah.
Especially in Milwaukee, that was a little interesting there. But they're going to have to find the right guy, and there's not a lot of great options available at current point. But last year we didn't know Doug Rivers was going to be available. We didn't know a lot of these guys. Coaching availability always is. Billy Donovan, for example, like a lot of these guys, we don't know who's going to be available.
Especially after the playoffs, if one team with higher expectations collapses, I think, and then their coach leaves, basically what happened to the Clippers last year, that is very likely of happening.
And then especially you look at, they already have the availability open. It's a very appealing job to take with the young core they have that they built through that Brooklyn trade. I mean, they got Tatum and Brown through that trade. If they can build off of that and attract a coach from a team, that could easily be an opportunity. People want to come to this job. This will create opportunities for itself because it's such an appealing destination. So what we know now may not be what we know in a couple weeks' time. So this is an availability, since it's open now, allows coaches to start thinking about that opportunity to take that job. And who knows who might be the coach next season. Because even the most safe coaches, like coaches that we think are locked into their job for the next 10 years, could be gone in a couple months' time and be the new head coach of the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the first moves that they have to do is they have to get rid of Kemba. As much as I like Kemba Walker, he really just looks like a shell of himself. And he's aging. The injuries have caught up. And I think it's time to move on, give some of those minutes to guys like Peyton Pritchard, guys like Aaron Nesmith, even Romeo Langford. And I think this year it's a deep class. They should definitely look into targeting a point guard and at least get some assets back for Kemba because they have $31 million in trade exception. They can take on bad contracts. And I think at this point it's all about leveraging your asset in Kemba, your picks, your trade exceptions, and getting a couple of guys in a large scale trade, maybe 2 to 3 guys that really fit the rotation, that can really fit the system. Guys like Miles Turner, for example. Or even guys, even a guy, he's obviously not getting traded, but a well rounded point guard like a Fred VanVleet or a Mike Conley. Those kinds of guys. So they should look into not making the big superstar trade, but making a splashy trade for a couple of really, really solid rotation pieces.
Now let's move on to the Western Conference. We'll try to get this over a little bit more quickly here. So let's start off with the least interesting of the series. We got Jazz versus the Grizzlies. Now this is a series that I thought actually could be interesting from the beginning. Started off quite interesting, but then the Jazz kind of pulled away. But this series was very interesting at the beginning, and someone who I really want to hear more about is how well this team came together and played. And in particular, Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks was just, wow. I did not expect to see that kind of performance from him.
Yeah.
He went automatic. 50% shooting, 40 from 3, 26 points. Just, yeah. He kind of went to another level that I didn't know that he had.
Mm-hmm. Very, very, very great piece, especially for John Morant. And he's going to be that starting shooting guard, at least for next year. And I think that the 3 guys that I really want to talk, or the 4 guys that I want to talk about are John Morant, obviously. He killed it. He was averaging 30. He had a 47-point game. He rallied the team, and he knew they were undermatched, but he still tried his hardest. He made a lot of big shots, great playmaker. But we already know that from Ja. Dylan Brooks, just automatic from 3. Played some pretty solid defense too, because before he was an established shooter, he was known more for his defense. So great 3-point shooter, great hustler, great defense. And then DeAnthony Melton was a guy that really surprised me too. And I think he's a guy that they should keep on the team for a long, long time. Because, like Brooks, he came into the league known for his defense, shooting guard, but he really upped his production from beyond the arc, going from 26% from 3 last year to 40 this year. And his production in the playoffs, it was very good. He was able to not lock up, but at least somewhat neutralize some of Utah's best perimeter players. He was able to get that shot up if Memphis needed it. And I think that Melton will be a really good 6-man for this Jazz team that is building slowly, but will eventually get to a top place in the West. The one guy on Memphis that I really did not love was Jaren Jackson, and he did not look like the Jaren Jackson that I'm used to seeing. He came off of, what was it? Was it ACL? ACL injury.
I don't know, actually.
It was ACL, because Achilles, it would have been a much worse recovery, or a much longer recovery.
It was a long recovery.
Yeah, but 13.6 points per game, but the one stat was 29% from 3. And that is not the Jaren Jackson that we're used to seeing. And I think that shot selection was not great, just wasn't hitting the shots either. And I think that really just did not contribute well to the team. And so a lot of Memphis's production relies on Jackson's 3-point shooting and defense, where he didn't play the best defense. So Jaren's got to step up.
No, a little bit of a question about their play style. Going up against a team like the Jazz, obviously, with a rim protector like Rudy Gobert, they really tried targeting that 3 to 10 feet kind of range. I mean, they had the highest percentage by a mile in that from any team, at 30% compared to the next best teams at 22. They really, really tried targeting that close mid-range kind of area. Do you think that that was an effective strategy for them, or do you think that that was an ineffective attempt for them?
I think it was effective given Ja's proficiency with floaters, given a good mid-range ability from guys like Melton and Brooks, and even given Valanciunas' mid-range game, which is very, very solid as well. So I think that worked out pretty well. And it got Rudy Gobert to come out a little bit. It allowed a little bit more room in the paint for them to operate with. But at the same time, there are so many creators on the Jazz, offensively and defensively, that they were simply undermatched in terms of a roster perspective. And while this scheme would have worked if they had a better roster and more experienced roster, I still think that the Jazz just completely overmatched them, and they were still able to utilize their other defensive creators and have kind of a cushion in the paint as Rudy Gobert would step out.
It's just really hard to see where this Memphis team is going to go in the future because I don't see a lot of avenues of them acquiring a star to pair with Ja Morant unless they get really lucky in the draft. And considering how well Ja's performing with this team, the odds of that happening seem relatively low. Their cap space isn't phenomenal, and they're not a very appealing destination. So, getting a second star to help this roster compete, I think is going to be interesting for this team. Unless their team really, really starts to develop, and their draft picks from the last 3 years, Jaren, Clark, and Ja really, really turn it on. Jaren's got to become an all-star, become an all-NBA player if this team's got any chance of making it to the finals.
Let's start with all-star, because that he still needs to take a pretty substantial leap to get to the all-star level. But I see a lot of Utah in this team. Young guard with the tremendous scoring ability, tremendous athleticism, fire and a soul, pretty solid coaching. I think that they could upgrade in the coaching department for sure. And I also, while there isn't a Rudy Gobert, you have Brandon Clark's defensive ability, you have Jaren's defensive ability, and I think that with a full summer that allows Jaren to recover, I think he can get to 18, 19 points, approaching 2 blocks, approaching 7 to 8 rebounds, and 35 plus 3-point percentage. If he gets to that level, I'll be satisfied because that's a fringe all-star player.
I really hope we see that again, or not again, but like his old self from his first 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I think that a big thing is recovery. He didn't have that much time to recover from the bubble. He didn't have that. He wasn't playing for around a month and a half, which is for an ACL injury. You gotta utilize more than 3 months to fully recover, especially as a shot blocker, especially as a shooter, and especially as a guy that's going to be operating in the perimeter, that will still go and get the cuts, that will still go and fade out. So I think his recovery time frame, they need to lock down on his recovery. They need to lock down on improving strength in his legs, improving his hips, getting him back to the more mobile shot blocker that he was. Because with a bad knee, you cannot be a mobile shot blocker.
Now let's move on to the one series that we don't know the winner of yet. It's Game 7 tomorrow night. It is the Clippers versus the Mavericks, and man, this has been a duel. I don't want to discredit Paul George. We'll get to him, but this has been the Kawhi Leonard versus Luka Doncic show, and it has been entertaining to watch every game. Them going back and forth has been just the best thing to watch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But before we get into how good they've been, talk about how average or below average Kristaps has been, because he's not been great.
I was expecting a lot more from Kristaps, but how many injuries has he had? He's had
too many.
7'3", you're that skinny, and you had multiple serious knee injuries. I'm sorry, you're just never gonna be the same player. But I didn't think it would be 13 points on 46% from the field bad, because at this point he's a no factor on defense, which really sucks when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, two very elite offensive producers. Then on offense, he was supposed to be the sidekick to Luka, and we're seeing some of the other guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. step up instead. So I think that if Kristaps Porzingis at least played like he did in the regular season, which wasn't that bad, we'd have Dallas in the second round playing Denver. Yeah, Denver, right? No,
they'd be
Phoenix.
playing they'd be playing the Jazz.
Wait, is it a 4-5?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. But yeah, playing Utah. But he's really been the X factor in a bad way. So Kristaps 32 minutes per game, 13 points. As when your primary skill is scoring, it's just not going to cut it, because there are players on the bench that can defend at a higher level and that can do more with their minutes instead of giving 32 minutes to Kristaps.
I mean, he's been playing worse than Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's shooting more threes, or is making more threes a game than him. Aaron Gordon is hitting 1.5 compared to his 1.3. 1.3.
Yeah.
That's just unacceptable for someone who you're going to pride yourself on being a stretch four.
Unicorn.
You're not stretching the floor shooting 1.3.
Ah, man, go stretch your knees. Become more mobile. If you want to stretch anything, do that.
Exactly. But hopefully he can have an off season like Jaren this season to actually recover instead of rehabbing, because that has been a constant for him. He has not really had an off season. His off season has been rehab every time. Never work on your game. It's been work on your injuries, work on your body. So if he can get himself right, obviously not in time for this series, but hopefully we'll have an interesting game. So let's talk about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Leonard has been going just supernova. He is shooting 60%. 60.
Oh my, he's crazy.
He's out of his mind right now.
33 points per game right now.
Shooting 60.
Like that's unheard of. And 43% from three, while being your best perimeter defender. And he's dishing out 4 dimes, 8 rebounds, 2 steals. 2 steals and a block.
He's ridiculous, man.
I don't know, man. He's a top 3 player for me.
He's got to be top 3.
Well, okay, so Steph is up there.
Luke is up. I don't know. I might take Kawhi over Steph and Luka just purely because his offensive game is not that far behind, but his defensive game is just so exponentially better than both of them.
Yeah.
It's better than Braun right now. Not even a question.
Oh, agreed, for sure. And then it's really between him and Durant.
I'd lean Durant just because Durant, you can't stop him at all. Like there's nothing you can do. It's just impossible.
But Kawhi, it's just crazy that Kawhi is dropping 40. Like, he had a game, dropped 41, and LA still lost with the roster that they have. And that tells you a lot about the roster. And before we get into Paul George, we need to talk about they need to retool. They need to spend this offseason retooling the roster around Kawhi Leonard, doing a better job of, instead of just acquiring talent like how Philly did, acquire talent that fits well with the team. And the number one guy that I think that needs to leave the team is Patrick Beverley, because he prides himself on being a great defender, but his defense has been garbage. It has not been good. And then he's taking away minutes from guys like Rondo or Reggie Jackson that aren't amazing, but are doing a better job on both ends of the floor than Patrick Beverley. But there is one guy that I'm really, really liking, and that's Nicholas Batum. And I think if LA wins the series, if they beat Utah, which is definitely likely, and if they push for that championship run, Nicholas Batum is going to be the Boris Diaw. He's going to be the Draymond Green. He's going to be the X factor that glues the team together, whether it's his production from three or if it's his elite defense. And he's been that small ball five at 6'8", 6'9", blocking shots from guys like Kristaps Porzingis and disrupting the paint. And Kristaps really has just not been able to thrive in the paint because of Batum. And when you play bigger teams with guys like Gobert or guys like DeAndre Ayton, Nicholas Batum is going to be a real big factor. So LA, retool the roster, but for the love of God, keep Nicholas Batum. Please keep Nicholas Batum.
I mean, I think the real issue with that team is just it's going to be the bigs. I mean, Zubac is all right. Ibaka is all right, but
I expected more from Ibaka.
If it just thinking that this team is built in a way that the Mavericks really thriving in the mid range area, in the paint. Just actually, they have the least amount of attempts of any team within the paint. So maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that their bigs are a little bit underwhelming at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that Tyronn Lue needs to make some defensive changes to Game 7. And I think it ultimately boils down to hug Dallas' shooters, keep Tim Hardaway Jr., keep Kristaps, keep their other good shooters from producing from beyond the arc. And you know what? If Luka drops a 50-piece, he drops a 50-piece. But it's better than Luka averaging 40 and all the other shooters putting up 10 to 15 points, as opposed to Luka getting 50 and they're all putting up 5 to 7. So hug the shooters, let Kawhi go one-on-one versus Luka, and I think that defensive scheme will work better than the current one that they have employed, where you're double-teaming Luka with two good perimeter defenders, and then that leaves one of the shooters open for an easy shot. And Dallas has really embraced this by going 5 out. So to counter 5 out, hug the shooters and let Luka do his thing, because one man is not going to win you a playoff basketball game.
I mean, we've seen that consistently. The last time one man won the finals was the Dallas Maverick.
Yeah.
And
but
that was
a very solid core around them.
But that was the closest example of a time one star has done it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have the Clips in 7. What about you?
I'm a little bit biased, but I'm taking the Mavs. I really just like this team. I like Luka too much, and as I said to you before we started this, the away team has won every game in this series.
Oh yeah.
Why not make it 7 games in a row for the away team?
Oh,
Dallas
no,
Mavericks in 7.
I'm pulling for that 6-1, man. I'm pulling for that 6-1.
So let's move on for our final 2 series. We've got Denver versus Portland. It was a 4-2 series. Nothing really surprising here at all. Kind of the same exact thing we thought we were going to see. A lot of points from Dame, a lot of Jokic, and just the Nuggets just being a better team. MPJ playing solid, the rest of the team playing great around them. Just
well, yeah. If the Clippers want to like stop the Mavs, do what the Nuggets did to Dame. Let him go off for 55, but let the rest of the team play like trash. And that's what they did. 2 of their 4 best players were out, and that allowed guys like Austin Rivers, Monte Morris, MPJ, man, to just show out. It allowed Jokic to drop 33. I think
34.
Yeah, 34. But did he have a triple double? I think he
No,
did.
he was eight and 9.7.
Ah man, Jokic is
What a
beast.
what a bum! Only averaging 8 and 9 points. Only 9.7 assists as a center.
Bro, I averaged 10.3 as a center, and I'm 5'6".
Exactly, man.
This bum
Gotta teach
stuff.
him.
But I honestly thought that Portland's roster was too talented for the season to end like this. And Stotts is out. Jason Kidd, they're really interested in. I think it all boils down to coaching. And then I've been hearing rumors that Dame is growing unhappy. His quote was, obviously, where we are isn't good enough to win a championship. If it's not enough to get out of the first round with two of their best four players not on the floor, referring to Jamal and who else was out?
Oh, it's the Oh, this is killing me.
Wait, I'm googling this right now. No, you talking about
It's
Millsap? No, Millsap was in.
no, it was it's what's his name? The three.
Aaron Gordon was in. MPJ was in.
This is gonna drive me insane.
Oh, Will Barton. Yeah, Will Barton was hurt, I think.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Barton. Austin Rivers played pretty well though.
Austin Rivers did a great job, especially from three, especially in that overtime game, the double overtime game. And this series was definitely closer than it looked with that double overtime game with a lot of closer games. But that was just Dame dragging the rest of the team into nearly winning a game. And that's obviously not going to get you playoff production. So they got to make some changes, whether it's getting a more well-rounded second option instead of CJ, changing the coaching, changing the depth. They got to make some changes.
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, this team isn't good enough to make it into a conference final, let alone the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're relying on Nurkic and McCollum, I mean, like, it's a solid team. Like, there's nothing wrong with the roster they have, but, like, there's just not enough ammunition on defense to really turn the tide for this team.
No, not at all.
Like,
Especially with Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. not performing the way I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Simons is getting a lot of minutes, and he's playing, Just the
And
team.
then
Carmelo's not great on defense.
Carmelo was averaging like 28 minutes a game.
Dude, I like Carmelo too much to
I
hate
love
on him.
Carmelo.
Just that the team has got no defenders. You've got Harry Giles. What is he gonna be? He's gonna take Nurkic's spot as the bad defender. You got Canner. Scary. Those are the three bigs that all can't defend.
Oh, Shiva me timbers.
Just imagine Jokic going into the series. He sees Nurkic and Giles and Cantor. All three of them playing center together could stop Jokic.
Oh my God, Cantor's defensive ability is something else. But let's look at one of the positives for Denver. Their depth, obviously, I think that will carry them far. But Michael Porter Jr., he really looked like the real deal. He was 50, 40, 90, I believe, 18 points. One game where he had 22 in the first. I think that was the elimination game, too, where they eliminated Portland. And Kevin Durant comparisons for guys like MPJ, Amani Bates, or even Chet Holmgren are not realistic because Kevin Durant is a once-in-a-generation player. But I see a little bit more of Carmelo in MPJ as a more of an isolation scorer. And I think that Jokic will be able to utilize him as that ISO scorer guy, and they'll be able to play off each other well. So I'm excited to see MPJ get more meaningful minutes next year and become the clear third option behind Jamal and Nicola.
So let's get into our final series, the biggest non-upset of all time. The Suns beat the Lakers. Oh wow, a 2 seed beat the 7 seed, but the 7 seed at the Lakers, and everyone loves the Lakers, so they must be the best team. Oh, how are they a 7 seed? Impossible. They couldn't be a 7 seed. They've got LeBron on their team.
Yeah, but they also had AD with a strained groin.
Well, the series was still like the Suns were winning that series. I know it was tied, but like they
Yeah,
were
like
winning that series even when AD was playing.
AD did not have a great season, to be honest. He looked a lot weaker. He didn't look as mobile. He didn't look like he was showing that effort. He didn't look like the hustle type player that he normally is. And on a strained groin, that's a painful injury. So his mobility was definitely hampered there. And that opened up the floor for, drum roll please, is a Marcus Gasol, who is not amazing, but won a Defensive Player of the Year and has a lot of great defensive experience and championship experience.
No, no, not him. That make too much sense.
No, it was Andre Drummond. Andre, dude, why? This man just goes up and grabs rebounds. He does not do anything else. Like, you have good rebounders on the team already. Go get you a guy like Marc Gasol. With Drummond, with AD and Drummond on the floor, the Lakers had a negative 2.8 net rating. With Davis and Gasol on the floor, they had an positive 11 rating. And sometimes the stats on the eye test don't always match. But even just watching the games, you saw how bad Drummond was to this team, and how detrimental he was defensively. And for a team like Phoenix that has so many shooters and so much perimeter talent, like Cam Payne, who showed out, Cam Johnson, obviously D Book, obviously Chris Paul,
Bridges,
Mikal Bridges, and
Crowder.
then what? Oh, Crowder too, and then one guy in the paint who is DeAndre Ayton. You don't need a guy like Andre Drummond when you already have Anthony Davis and Marc Gasol who could easily be a much better fit in over Drummond. So some poor coaching there, injuries. I think the injuries kind of destroyed the morale. Kyle Kuzma completely sold. Yeah, they really chose Kuzma over Ingram and Ball. Dennis Schroeder.
Right decision.
Dennis Schroeder wants $100+ million. Magic Johnson came out and said that he is not a fan of Dennis Schroeder on the Lakers. So I think chemistry-wise and mentally, this team is at a terrible place right now. And so there's definitely going to be a good bit of distancing, and there are going to have to be some pretty substantial moves to be made to keep their core intact, but to keep the core happy and to keep LeBron and AD happy.
So here's my take on what I think happened with the Lakers season. They had a championship winning team, and you hear all the storyline about it's a star-driven league, build super team, build super team, build super team. When the Lakers saw what the Nets were doing, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, obviously we know what happened with LaMarcus Aldridge in hindsight, but at the time there was a feeling that this was becoming this team was insane, no one could stop them, the Lakers have no chance against them. You hear all these storylines, the Lakers bit into that, and they signed Andre Drummond. Well, they got Andre Drummond because they thought that, all right, let's try and compete with this building super team. But the NBA, while it is a star-driven league, and you need stars to win, you only need 2 or 3 stars. 2 or 3. You just need 2 or 3 great players, and then you have complementary players around them. There is no complementary at all. There's no chemistry, complementary skill sets on this Lakers team. It is 75 big men and Dennis Schroeder. Like, they have this is their front court. Harrell, all right, solid. Then you got Gasol, LeBron, who's playing point guard because they've got no other players on this team, but he is at heart a 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You've got Drummond, Davis, Jared Dudley, just Markieff Morris. It's just so cluttered. And Kuzma, there's just no. When Alex Caruso is playing like 20+ minutes a game, you got a problem. Like everyone loves Alex Caruso, but Alex Caruso is just there's a reason why he's a meme.
When Jared Dudley's getting like significant minutes, you have a problem.
Why is he? Why is the eighth string big man playing?
Why is KCP? Why are they relying on KCP as a perimeter threat? And then also, fine, have 8 big men, but don't have them all have the same skill set. Montrezl Harrell cannot. Honestly, I don't even know what Montrezl Harrell can do besides inside scoring. I don't think he can do anything else. Andre Drummond just rebounds. So, bam, you have 2 conflicting skill sets that cannot play well together. And both of them are pretty undersized at 6'7" and 6'10". Then you have Kuzma, whose shot selection's been poor, shot making has been poor. Then you have Markieff Morris, who's a hothead and is going to completely destroy the temper in the locker room. And then you have AD, who all these guys are taking minutes away from, and there's a pretty conflicting skill set because AD is not like some stretch big. And then you have guys like Kostas and Antetokounmpo, Devontae Cacok.
Pretty much everyone's playing one position too high.
Yeah,
everyone has been moved up in the lineup because they've got so many big men. So
and then
4s are playing 3s, 3s are playing 2s, and 2s are playing 1s. Like everyone is playing out of
Dennis
position.
Schroeder as the only true point guard.
And even then, he's probably a better shooting guard than he is point guard.
And I'm looking at ESPN right now, and I'm looking at the roster. It has their player and it has the position that they play, like their natural position. So they have LeBron, for example, as a small forward, Kuzma as a small forward, AD as a power forward.
And he's a better center than anything.
Yeah, but the only person with a point guard next to his name is Dennis Schroeder. And then the only quote-unquote combo guard is Ben McLemore.
And they have
Ben McLemore. No hate to that, man, but it's not looking good. So they have a lot of bigs. There are some pretty big needy teams, maybe Dallas, for example. So they just got to look into trading these bigs for guards and getting shooters. Because successful LeBron teams have shooters. J.R. Smith, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love for Cleveland. For Miami, D-Wade's not a shooter, but he can shoot decently
they
well.
have Ray Allen.
Ray Allen, Mario Chalmers, who is an excellent shooting point guard, flew under the radar. So when you have a team with LeBron and shooters, it's raps. I'm going to be honest with you. LeBron, AD shooters, it's raps. But when you have LeBron, AD, Montrezl Harrell, and Andre Drummond touching the floor together, that's just not going to work. That's cluttering up the paint. That's not letting LeBron's inside scoring and playmaking, which are arguably his 2 best traits, thrive. And you want your best player to be able to showcase their best traits and then build the team around their skill set, which they just clearly haven't done.
And then you look at the complete opposite side of that. It's the Suns. The versatile backcourt that could all just gel together and mold in this beautiful roster. Like everything is complementary. And then they got George Hill, like the person the Lakers needed. The Suns were like, yeah, well,
George Hill played for the Suns?
Yeah, so I'm checking right now.
Oh
no, he's on Philly, not Phoenix.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought. But
well, anyways, they should have taken George Hill. The Lakers should have taken George Hill.
Cameron Payne is playing excellent. Cam Payne, the tank master, playing great.
Dude, I didn't think George Hill. I thought he was on the Sixers, but I looked at my list of points per game, and Cam Johnson's right ahead of him, and I saw Phoenix. Like, oh, what? No way! I just misread it.
George Hill's a perfect player.
He would have been great on the Lakers, but you know.
Andre Drummond, dude, he can grab rebounds.
He can get
because
rebounds.
LeBron and AD can't grab rebounds at all.
Oh, and neither can Gasol or Montrezl Harrell or Markieff Morris.
Yeah. But the one player that I really want to talk about is Devin Booker. And first, I want to look at his development because he has improved in so many areas that fly under the radar. We all know he's a scorer, great scorer, efficient scorer, but passing. So in 2017, 2018, which I know is a while back. 4.9 assists for 75 or 70 possessions or 70 touches. My bad. 4.9 assists for 70 touches. He was able to get that up to 7.6, and that just shows the Chris Paul impact, giving everyone their fair share of possessions, letting everyone distribute the ball, finding the great shot instead of the good shot. And that's what Chris Paul and Monty Williams have done, and Devin Booker has improved to fit that. Then also, along with passing, that goes hand in hand with off-ball impact. And since last year, he's improved from 6 to 8.7 points per game on either spot-up shots, cuts, screens, or handoffs. So it's not like he's Stephen Curry that's picking apart defensives with his off-ball impact like Devontae Adams does as a route runner. But he's making those strides. Monty is having him not just be the microwave scorer, but be more of an offensive initiator and be, I wouldn't say, not a black hole, but be the focal point as a playmaker and a scorer. And then, what does that translate? That translates to a 15.2 increase in Phoenix's offensive rating with Booker on the court. So with Booker on the court, their points per 100 possessions increases by 15.2 points, which is unheard of. So Booker, man, great job improving in so many areas, so many offensive areas that aren't called scoring. So just great job there. Chris Paul statistically did not have a great series just because injury, limited minutes, but his knowledge off the court and the team's ability to learn from him really made this series great. And then I think coaching, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Cam Payne coming out as a great supporting cast, and they made D Book look like a top 15 player. So kudos to Phoenix. And this is my team to win the West.
Yeah, I mean, they had a +7 net rating over the Lakers. I mean, they really bossed the series. Just from shutting down their, well, albeit pretty pathetic mid-range and three-point game, and just taking away everything. Like, the pace in this series was a slow-paced series, to be fair. Like, it was the second slowest or third slowest series of any series this playoffs, which you would have thought, oh, that would have benefit the Lakers. No. But what they did, Monty Williams, Coach of the Year, not even a question. He has just been exceptional.
Excellent, yeah, for sure.
So, before we end our NBA content real quick, what are your favorite matchups, excluding the Hawks, going into the semifinals, the conference semifinals?
I'm really excited for Milwaukee and and Brooklyn. I think you have two good offensive teams, but you have one elite defensive team versus one elite offensive team, to be honest. And then Phoenix is playing Denver, correct?
Yes.
So I think that's going to be a great series to watch too. Denver both have elite depth, both have a star, and both have great coaching. So I think that those two series will go to at least 6 games, if not 7. I think Utah, LA, if LA clicks, it's wraps for Utah. And I think, man, Philly, Atlanta. Give me Atlanta in 6. Give me Atlanta in 6.
All right.
Give me Atlanta in 6. I'm feeling confident today.
Actually, that's what I would do as well.
We have Clippers. I'll do a Clippers Suns Western Conference Finals, and I think that it's going to come down to coaching. It's going to come down to Chris Paul being hungry for that title spot. Give me Phoenix. And then in the East, Brooklyn's going to have a relatively easy time with Atlanta, to be very honest with you. And we have a Brooklyn-Phoenix final. in final series, and if you told me that Brooklyn and Phoenix are the front runners to go to the finals like 4 years ago, we
Oh
would have
God.
we
Oh
would have
God.
died laughing. Because 2017 draft, the number one, number two odds for the number one pick, Brooklyn had the top odds for the number one pick, and Phoenix had the second odds to win the number one pick. So it's crazy how you can turn around a team like that in 4 years. And it shows you that while rebuilding organically is a good thing, making a splash for an established star gets your team from good to great. So hopefully other teams can follow that model. And hopefully in 5 years we'll be saying the same thing about OKC.
Well,
As
Phoenix is a little bit more natural than Brooklyn is.
yeah, they're more natural, but the Chris Paul trade did a lot.
It really congealed it. It's like a Tom Brady kind of thing. I'm not saying it's Tom Brady thing. It's a catalyst of the leadership that sparks the belief in the players that improves the roster. While Chris Paul himself might not be 10 times better than the rest of the team, he elevates everyone up else to a level so much greater than what they were at. Just maximizing talent, and that's something that is really invaluable for a player and for a team.
Like Phoenix is definitely greater than some of their parts now with Chris Paul on the team. And with Chris Paul, people find the Clippers found him annoying. The Rockets found him annoying because they had all these veterans that knew that they thought they knew what they were doing and they wouldn't take Chris Paul's advice. But this is a young team with a coach that's willing to learn from Chris Paul and a set of 9 to 10 guys that are also willing to learn from Chris Paul too. And so that ability to learn from an established veteran is so unparalleled. So I have Brooklyn winning it all in 6 against Phoenix. What about you?
Um, Denver Phoenix is gonna be a really good one, man. I can't decide between Denver Phoenix, so I'm gonna say Clips Brooklyn, but I said Mavericks are gonna win, so I'm kind of countering myself all over the place here. So, I'll do Mavs Brooklyn.
Mavs Brooklyn.
That'll be fun.
Oh my god.
I can't decide between Denver and Phoenix, so I'll just pick the other one.
Damn. So we're not loving Utah, and we could be totally
Of course
wrong.
not. It's you think a team with Rudy Gobert gonna make it to the finals?
Stop. There was no need for that.
Rudy Gobert is not a playoff player.
Yes.
He gets destroyed every playoffs. It's like a routine occurrence. Dude, they're losing to either the Clippers or Mavericks. Like, it's not even a debate at this point.
They're definitely gonna lose to the Clips.
I'm so confident in that one. That's the most confident I am on a series. Is Utah will lose to whoever they
If
play.
the Jazz win the finals in like 2 months, we're just gonna have an awkward.
I'll shave my head if the Jazz win the finals.
No, I swear to God, if the Jazz win the finals, you better not do some like voiceover thing.
I'll shave my head.
Make me look bad. But moving on to the NFL. It's the end of an era in Atlanta.
That's been in there for a while. If you're just now accepting it.
Yeah, no, it's been literally after we lost to the Eagles in that playoff game. I was like, oh.
Once you lost in the Super Bowl, that was it. All right, before we get someone on suicide watch, let's talk about Julio Jones real quick. So, he's out of there, as he said on Undisputed. So, first of all, I just want to talk about: do you think he knew if he was on the call? Because my take is, if Shannon Sharp calls you between the hours of 10 o'clock and 12 on a weekday, you know where he is. Like you know where he is.
Yeah, like I think he knew it. And I think that Terry Fantano, am I saying that right? Fontenot, I think he pissed him off. He pissed Julio off. And to kind of get back at the franchise that Julio was so loyal to in the beginning, he wanted to make that statement. Because that's so uncharacteristic of Julio. Like, Julio's the last player I'd see doing that, but he must have gotten really pissed off. And it makes no sense because Arthur Smith wants to win. They drafted Kyle Pitts, which is more of a win now type thing.
Now
And now they're going to
trade
away their number one receiver? Like, I get it. Pitts is going to be the Julio replacement. But if we wanted to replace Julio, why not draft Jamar?
Makes no sense. You would have been so much better off with Jamar. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm honestly lost. But
let's talk about what you're going to get in return for him. So, there's a couple interested teams. Titans are not as interested as they want themselves to be, as much as AJ Brown would want them to be.
Yeah, I think they've pretty much pulled out.
You've got the Pats. That's where he wants to go. You want the Niners. You got Green Bay. I don't think they're interested at all, but I just put them on the list because if you want Aaron Rodgers to stay, which we'll talk about later, you're going to want to trade for Julio. Seattle. I put Arizona on the list, and then you decided the Rams. So let's talk about the Patriots real quick. Julio Jones to the Patriots. They're not getting more than a second from the Patriots. The Patriots are not giving you a first-round pick for Julio. So that means the Falcons would get the same trade package for Julio Jones that they did for Mohamed Sanu, which I think profoundly ridiculous in my opinion. But
that's crazy. But
the Pats is a situation where Julio would have to check his ego at the door, and I think he can do that. He has been the quiet, mild-mannered receiver for a decade. So in New England, you're not going to get every game 10 catches. You're going to have a game of 2 catches, 40 yards, and then you're going to have a game for maybe 12 or 115 a touchdown. But you're just going to get what's coming to you in New England. There's not going to be anything of, we need to throw it to Julio. We're throwing it. Bill Belichick would probably throw it to Nelson Aguilar or Kendrick Bourne. So, I mean, the team, yeah, Julio, he'd be great there, but he wouldn't put up the numbers you'd expect of Julio Jones there.
No.
But the team would be awesome.
No. But I think Julio wants to be in a situation where he can compete for the championship, and I don't know if New England gives him that.
And then there's no chance Bill Belichick puts up the contract situation. If Julio wants a new contract, Bill Belichick is not dealing with that.
And it came out today that he wants a big-armed quarterback.
Well, Cam Newton's fairly big arm. Not accurate, but he's big armed. And then Mac Jones is not that huge, but he's accurate, so.
But I think we're looking more at like a Russell Wilson type quarterback. Or even a Kyler Murray or Matt Stafford. But let's say he doesn't. The one situation that I like the best is San Fran. Reunite him with Kyle Shanahan. It gives them that clear number one guy. They have other weapons to alleviate the pressure off of Julio, so his production will either remain the same or even inflate it. It's the best offense. Like, you're in a mastermind. You have a mastermind as your offensive coordinator or as your head coach, and then it gives Trey Lance one more weapon to fall back on because every rookie QB goes through their rookie struggles. So when you have the best tight end in the league and then a top 3 receiver at your disposal, those struggles are definitely going to be masked. So I think that if they can pull something off, San Francisco would be the best destination. Plus, they're a contender when healthy.
I don't know if Trey Lance is starting this year, it may not be a contender.
But let's say Jimmy G plays through the playoffs.
But they can't play Jimmy G. Trey Lance has to play this year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You cannot have Trey Lance sit on the bench for 2 years because Jimmy Garoppolo if he plays and he's healthy, he's going to get you 12, 13 wins. And you're not going to be able to replace a quarterback who won 13 games. That's impossible. You're not going to be able to replace a quarterback. Look at Aaron Rodgers. You can't replace Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love because Aaron Rodgers just took you to the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row. If you're winning, you cannot replace somebody, no matter how good the backup is. And Jimmy G's, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he's also not Alex Smith, which is another example of a quarterback who played well, but was clearly going to get replaced. And Trey Lance made it clearly he's going to replace Jimmy Garoppolo. But Jimmy Garoppolo is that team's guy. Like, he is the guy.
He'll be the week 1 starter though.
The players love Jimmy G.
George Kittle loves Jimmy G.
I mean, it's just going to be really, really interesting to see how they manage with it all. Because you think about it, this team, if they mortgage more of their future to get Julio Jones, this team's not going to have a first-round pick for 2 more years. Not going to have a second-round pick. This team already has lost so much talent. I mean, this team was amazing 2 years ago, but they've already shed a lot of talent from that Super Bowl team. Like, if you look at them, yeah, they're good and all, but their roster isn't anything special. Like, their defense, if you look at their defensive line, yeah, they've got D Ford and Bosa and Eric Armstead, but D Ford hasn't been exceptional. Eric Armstead has been pretty average. Dick Bosa's been hurt. Their linebackers are great, but their secondary is broken. I mean,
their secondary's done.
They've got Jimmy Ward. Jason Verrett was pretty good last year, but in that Seattle scheme, they also lost the defensive coordinator. I mean, looking at this roster, I just don't think that they have the ability to mortgage more of their future assets.
What about the Rams, though?
They probably can, because they have arguably more talent than the San Francisco does, especially on defense, and especially on offense. Offense is debatable. They both have really, really special offenses, but I don't see a fit for Julio anywhere. I don't see a team that would. Every team should be willing to trade for Julio, but yet again, I don't see a lot of teams that are really in that conversation.
I think he wanted Seattle. I can't see Seattle.
I can't see him taking him. Buffalo, I can't see him doing that.
I can't see Arizona.
I can't see a lot of teams. The only team I can see is the Colts. The Colts need to do it. The Colts get on the phone right now.
Well, I forgot about the Colts.
They're the only team I think that can actually reasonably do it.
And they need Hilton's wash basically. They need
Hilton's
that
solid, but Michael Pittman and Hilton are not cutting it, and Paris Campbell is not a receiving core that I want to trust Carson Wentz with.
No, because I feel like if they got Julio, they could definitely challenge Buffalo and Kansas City. I already think they're the 3rd best team in the AFC.
That's the only team I think that he can go to. Like, that's the only team I can see making an offer. We're not making. I think every team should make an offer, but that's the only team I can see that can make a reasonable offer.
I'd see him in LA, or like the Rams. I'd see Indy and LA as the 2 best situations, because the Rams are basically all or nothing.
But the Falcons are going to have to demand the other team absorb a lot of the contract, and the Colts are pretty much the only team that can absorb a lot of that contract.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The Falcons need to demand if they're only going to get a 2nd-round pick for Julio, they're going to need to demand a lot of contract brevity. Like, they're just going to need it, because if you look at the Falcons' cap space, I mean, they are screwed, to put it lightly.
Yeah,
they've got $300,000 this year. I mean,
this is a team that's not built for the short term or the long term.
They got $40 million dead money in Julio Jones.
Yeah.
They've got 65 in Matt Ryan. They've got 30 in Jake Matthews. They've got 29 Deion Jones.
How much for Dante?
Only 15.
Yeah, 15 for a guy that was ranked 47 out of 48 in pass rushers. So
they're just not in a good spot, are they? So yeah. They need all the cap help they can get. So if they want to compete, if Fontenot wants to help make this team competitive, they're really going to need some contract help, and that'll probably be the reason why they don't get a 1st-round pick, and they may not even get a 2nd-round pick. They should get a 2nd-round pick, but Julio's going to be a 2-year rental kind of deal, because no one's going to want to repay him after his contract expires, because he'll be 34, and
team like the Rams, whose window is realistically around 2 to 3 years.
He fits with their window. I just don't see the assets they have. They could maybe offer a second, but that's about it. At their cap situation, they can't help with cap.
And a second down the line, further down the line, would not. It wouldn't hurt.
Well, that's pretty much it for them. So let's talk about a team that I thought that should make a move. Okay, if you were a Falcons fan, would you take Jordan Love for Julio Jones?
I would need more. I feel like
If you're taking a second round pick for Julio, you can take Jordan Love.
maybe Jordan Love in like a fourth or something.
But anyways, your Falcon future is not now. You need a quarterback for the future. Jordan Love's already pretty good sitting on the bench. He learned last year how to do it really well. I mean, Love, I think, is still... I have him as a top 2 quarterback coming out of the draft. Obviously, I was wrong about Justin Herbert, but I still think he's better than Tua. I think Jordan Love is a really special player. And the Falcons need some kind of special player to build around. So, the Packers need something to appease Aaron Rodgers. Either getting Gutekunst out of there. Getting Love out of there is not going to do anything because he doesn't. There's no beef with Jordan Love. Jordan Love's just an asset because, they wasted a first round pick on him because, Packers thought that Rodgers was nearing the end. So, Rodgers, either you get Gutekunst out of there or you make the team so appealing that he has to stay. And I just don't know. There's no teams I think that can make a trade for Aaron Rodgers. Denver's the only team this year that seems reasonable because I made a list of all the teams that would need a quarterback or I think should trade for a quarterback. Miami, I think, could do it, but I think they're good with Tua this year. Washington football team, they're riding with Fitzpatrick, and even though Rodgers would make too much sense there, you're riding with Fitzpatrick. Pittsburgh, they're stick with Big Ben. Cleveland, I'm not paying Baker Mayfield after his rookie contract because I think you got to be a top 5 quarterback to earn a second contract. Baker Mayfield's just not a top 5 quarterback. You got a top 10 quarterback. So, as good as Baker Mayfield is, I would rather trade him for Aaron Rodgers and just maximize your window. And then Vegas, I don't see that happening. Rodgers wouldn't be good there. And the only other team that an outside shot of doing it would be maybe Baltimore, where you package Lamar Jackson, because I don't know, I'd pay Lamar Jackson a big contract, but Aaron Rodgers is a lot better than Lamar Jackson. No offense to him, but Baltimore would never do that because they're built around Lamar Jackson and they'll probably play better with him. So, only team is Denver, and they're not going to offer Green Bay what they want because Green Bay's going to be ridiculous and ask for 7 first-round picks. Rodgers' relationship is pretty much fractured with the team. All the receivers held out, which is completely unusual. I just don't think this situation works for them. So I think you have to get Julio Jones, and if Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, pretty appealing. So I don't know. I don't see a team that can take Rodgers. I don't see a way that Rodgers gets out of Green Bay. So better make the situation as appealing as you can.
Yeah, for sure. I think because just looking at this list, I just can't imagine these teams would have to give up so much just to get an older Rodgers.
No one's doing it. No one's gonna trade for it.
No one's gonna do that. No one has the kind of assets that Green Bay wants. And if they do, why would you give up Lamar Jackson when
No, we wouldn't.
your offense is built around Lamar, when you've been winning games with Lamar, and when Lamar won an MVP in his first season starting, in his first full season with the team. You know what I mean? It doesn't make too much sense.
I mean, those are the only teams right now that will need a quarterback for next year. And Baltimore and Cleveland can easily just re-sign their quarterback.
Yeah. I think Baltimore will.
They should. Lamar's earned it. Baker Mayfield, you might have more of a debate on that one, whether he's worth what they're gonna. He's gonna get paid $35 million probably, but whether he's worth that is a better debate. And in Cleveland, there's no chance of trading him because their fans love Baker Mayfield. So I just don't. The Rodgers situation is very interesting.
For sure.
So last football story that we've got. We'll get more into the nuanced stuff once we do daily content because then we can really specialize on what happened the day before. But we're just trying to get the big headlines since we've been out. So you got Tim Tebow's back after 9 years and he's playing tight end now. So I don't think any of you guys have heard about that story. It's gone a little bit under the radar. No one's heard of Tim Tebow ever. So, first question that I think we all have is he going to be on the roster day one? I think that's the answer that you're going to get from a lot of people because take Tim Tebow objectively. Just ignore the name. Think of a 6'2", 6'3", around there, quarterback. Average athlete, nothing exceptional. Probably a little bit of a below average athlete for the NFL. He's learning a new position for the first time, and he is 30-something years old and is playing in the NFL for the first time in 9 years.
Yeah.
How do you think the young players that played their entire college careers at tight end and are trying to earn a spot in the NFL, and then Tim Tebow comes along and says, yeah, I'm playing tight end now? Or how do you think the Jaguars players feel that their coach is just going to throw Tim Tebow in there at tight end? And then we could all be wrong, and Tim Tebow is suddenly some great tight end, but he didn't want to play that Taysom Hill role when Sean Payton asked him. And then he saw the success and how much money he's getting Taysom, so he's come said, oh, baseball, I don't care about that. I'll come play football now. So
Taysom Hill's a good athlete.
Taysom Hill's an incredible athlete. He is arguably the best athlete of any quarterback in the league. He's probably he is the third fastest quarterback in the league behind Lamar and Kyler. I mean, that's not even a question. Like,
The third best quarterback?
third fastest.
Oh, fast. Oh, okay.
But he also is built like a bowling ball.
Yeah, he's strong. He's built like.
And he's played tight end. Like he took 3 years to learn tight end. Like his first season he didn't play tight end. His second year he started learning it, and then last year was probably his best year at tight end.
Yeah, it just honestly this move just shows that Jacksonville, they have their new QB that's already giving them some attention, especially when it's Trevor Lawrence. Then you want to go out.
What kind of mentor is Tim Tebow though? Like, what's he gonna teach you?
But then you want to go out. Ooh, we already have the attention. Let's do some more PR stunts and let's get Tim Tebow because that would be kind of funny. I think that's literally the logic.
Did you see that one video of him running a route?
No.
There's a video of him running a route, and it's quite comical. I'll try and pull it up on.
I'm googling it right now.
I can try to pull it up for the stream because I think we'd all enjoy watching that.
Oh, it was on the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah. Hold on, let's see if we can pull it up for the audience. All right. Let's see if I can. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, look at that. Like, he doesn't look fast.
He doesn't look agile. He looks like one sharp cut and he's gonna tear his meniscus.
I mean, he looks built. But like, what is that? He just ran into that guy.
He didn't absorb the contact either. The guy just left.
look at the headline of this video I'm playing on the stream. Tim Tebow looks motivated and jacked as a tight end.
Bro, this is literally made by the Jags marketing director's burner account. I can tell.
Exactly. I can tell that Shad Khan's burner.
Yeah.
But man, that is funny.
It's hilarious.
I just don't think that's gonna be the move.
No, I feel like this has happened. It kind of happens when you have the meme player. They come back. You just sign them just for the meme. And then they play like dog water, and then you just let them go. That's what's gonna happen.
Let's get into our final topic real quick. Tomorrow night. Oh, we'll definitely cover this on Monday. Monday we're gonna have a fun time with this one. We'll probably get a little more coverage in tomorrow. Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather's on tomorrow night.
We've never talked about boxing on this channel.
We have never talked about boxing on the channel. But they announced, I think it was yesterday, that there's no judges, no winners. Just watching them fight. 8 rounds, 3 minutes each. Oh, it'll be interesting. So I was doing a little bit of research into Floyd's boxing career. So he's been knocked down once in his career, so he doesn't get hit. And then as well, he's had one split decision in his entire career, right? And that was against De La Hoya. And that was the tallest person he's ever faced at 5'10.5". Usually he fights guys around 5'7" to 5'9", but mainly like 5'7", 5'8", like right around his height. He's 5'8", so he's fighting a guy that's 6'2". He's 5'8". I don't care how amazing Floyd Mayweather is. If Logan Paul is smart and uses his like plus 4-inch, I don't know the reach numbers, but I assume his reach is exponentially bigger than Floyd Mayweather's.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like fighting a kid. Like Floyd Mayweather was obviously the much better player, boxer, and probably gonna win the fight. Like, but don't discount Logan Paul, man. He is huge.
I won't, but at the same time, Logan Paul is gonna use that, take a look at his size advantage, just go all out on the attack. Floyd Mayweather's a defensive boxer. He knows how to tire people out. He put Conor McGregor to bed without like actually knocking him out.
Conor McGregor also hadn't fought before. Well, granted, Logan Paul hadn't fought before, but McGregor was his size. McGregor was a reasonable size, and that was his last fight.
But he can easily tire. I feel like he's going to be able to tire Logan Paul out. Then Paul will be more vulnerable in the later rounds. Floyd can still pack a punch. He broke that WWE guy's nose, I think Big Show, on his stage at WWE event. He broke his nose. Like, totally accidentally. And then he'll be able to knock out Pikachu. Pikachu had suicide for this guy.
His last fight was 4 years ago. I mean, I think Mayweather's going to win. But I think it's closer than people realize.
No, it's not going to be... People say KO 3 seconds. It's not going to be like that. I think it will last at least to a 6th round, but But boxing is a game of technique. It's a sport of tactics, and just being able to hit someone does not take you all the way. And Floyd made a whole career out of technique and tactics.
And let's not forget Logan Paul lost to KSI.
Oh yeah, that's it.
He lost to KSI, who's like throwing punches like this and like that. Like he lost with like the worst technique ever.
Yeah, so you can't. And you're not. That's not gonna fly against the greatest boxer of our generation. So
greatest. Like I don't think people realize. Like okay, so let's get like a compare. This is like Tom Brady in like 5 years going up against a high school quarterback in a passing competition. Like that's kind of what the comparison is for this.
Yeah.
Except it's a little bit more one-on-one. Okay, this is like right now Michael Jordan hooping against
it's like a college, like Cade Cunningham.
No. Okay, what I think a better analogy would be like, what's a really really good like
a
football player?
Oh.
This is like Devontae Adams going against Michael Jordan in a one-on-one right now. Devontae might win because he's younger, but Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Maybe, that's a little bit more of a... Jordan last played in 2003, so... This is like Dirk going up against Devontae Adams.
Like D-Wade.
D-Wade, yeah, D-Wade. That's like 2 years, though. That's a little too close.
Yeah, but...
Dirk. Dirk was also 2 years ago, too. Duncan. This is like Duncan going up against somebody.
For KG, yeah.
Yeah. KG probably might win, but don't discredit the young guy. Because the young guys, it'll be interesting.
But the older guy's also 50-0 against professionals.
Yeah, the older guy's also a lot smaller. So, who's a really good small basketball player? Isaiah. This is like IT playing against somebody. IT versus a football player, and a one-on-one.
Oh no. Why'd you have to do my boy IT like that?
Hey, he came and played a game for us. A game.
But yeah, how much is it for the fight?
Free.
Wait, it's free?
No, it's pay-per-view, but I could probably find it for free somewhere.
Yeah, I'll find some. But
They're gonna make a lot of money on this fight.
yeah, they will.
Like Jake Paul versus Ben Askren made what?
And Chad Ocho.
100. Oh, dude. Oh, I forgot we were gonna talk about the Chad Ochocinco fight. All right, so he's fighting against Brian Maxwell. So Chad Ochocinco is going up against Brian Maxwell, who was a MMA guy, and he went to bare knuckle boxing, and he lost thrice. He's 0-3 in bare knuckle boxing. So I've never heard of Brian Maxwell before. I'm not gonna say I knew anything, so I did some research. First fight got knocked out in TKO'd, then he lost the next two. He was 4-4. He was 2-2 in his MMA career. He's not great, but Chad Ochocinco is also a former skinny wide receiver, so
Yeah.
I want Ocho to win, man. That'll be so much fun.
I want Ocho to win too.
Dude, we're
Oh my
cheering
god,
for Ocho.
all the like true boxing fans are like punching the air right now. But
Dude, they're like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, the biggest names in boxing right now, and Chad Ochocinco's the undercard for the
yeah,
fight.
that's gotta hurt if you're like a true boxing fan. That's really gotta hurt.
This would be like watching some rappers come into the NFL or NBA start playing some scrums.
No, that's like J. Cole and Sheck West coming into the league.
Yeah, but not the African league, like the like the NBA.
Like no, the NBA. Like it's like J. Cole playing for the Hornets and Sheck West playing
No,
for
no. This is like Tim Tebow coming in to play tight end for the Jaguars.
Guys that it might not be their first sport, but they're coming to play it.
Like Tim Tebow.
Like Tim Tebow. He's a baseball player now.
Well, that'll do it for our first live show. How did you think of William and Ishan, besides the early technical difficulties?
It was definitely fun. We had one viewer, Nandan Chef. Thank you for viewing. And, we'll be putting out content almost daily for the rest of the summer. And we'll be doing a lot more on the website too, especially on the articles. Just some shorter bits of content that don't quite make the podcast, but that are still worthy of sharing. And we do have a Patreon, and we'll update you guys with the Patreon content once we have that figured out later on in the summer. So it's kind of the updates for the summer now. We have an eventful summer of Triple Threat podcast content, and got the NBA draft coming up, NFL training camps, rest of the playoffs, finals, maybe some more boxing, maybe even some Olympics content, some soccer content. So stay tuned. I'm Ishan Sheth. Alongside me, as always, William Ezel. And that will do it for live episode 1 of the Triple Threat Podcast.